One.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of the Coast2Coast podcast. Today, we will be going over different free agency scenarios in a bit of a game style. So, we're going to propose the scenario, and we're going to say if his value goes up or if his value goes down with that given scenario. So, let's just get right into it. First up, we got Jameis Winston staying with the Saints. What do you guys say?
Carson, how about you take this one first?
Um, Up honestly, only if he starts though. That's like kind of like the big what if. Just like we're not really sure yet. Only time will tell. Like if it's gonna be him and Taysom Hill. But I think if he ends up starting, like definitely up because they have the weapons. You have Kamara out of the backfield. You have Michael Thomas, who's one of the best receivers in the league. I think in like a structured, really great offensive system like that can really like, oh shoot. It says my internet's unstable. Can you guys still hear me?
You're good. You're perfect.
You're good.
Dub. I just think in like a system like that where you can maximize his talents and minimize like the obviously like all the interceptions and everything. I'd say it'd be up, and I think it'd be like a really like sneaky good option just because of how productive he was on Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I would actually have to say down on this idealistically. I agree in the fact that if he starts, but I'd imagine that they'd be running double sets of Taysom Hill. And also, the Saints are in a huge cap problem. Michael Thomas might be on his way out, or it's gonna be hard for them to get weapons. They literally just released Emmanuel Sanders, I think, a couple hours ago today. So that's down another weapon. So Jared Cook's probably gonna be on his way out too. So not saying I don't have faith in Jameis as a quarterback, but I think if you're surrounding him with weapons like he had when he had his breakout year, even though he had interceptions out there in Tampa Bay, he had Chris Godwin, who was a star, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, so on and so forth. I think it's going to be a little bit hard, though, for Jameis Winston. I think there's some other options, some later teams on this list that I'd rather have him go to. So realistically, I'd probably say down.
Yeah, I had it kind of neutral or going up if he is the long-term starter, because for the same reason. If he's splitting touches with Taysom Hill like that, obviously his value is not going to be as much as other scenarios that we have going on here. So next up, we got going to the Patriots. What do you guys think about this one?
I'd probably say down again. A scenario that I thought would make sense, one that I've seen has been talked about. But at the same time, it's even worse situation with the Saints in terms of weapons. Like, they don't even have a chance probably at a star receiver unless, there's rumors that they're going to go out there and sign Hunter Henry. But, honestly, there's a lot of some of the top guys, they're getting mocked to some teams, with better quarterback situations. And I think, some of these top receivers down the line would rather go play with a proven, quarterback that isn't going to be isn't going to be throwing a lot of, interceptions and stuff. But I would say fantasy wise, probably down, given the system of New England, probably going to do a lot of, running plays to complement. We saw exactly what happened with Cam Newton. I think, Tom Brady was just the guy there. So I'll leave it as that.
Yeah, same. I had down too, just because the receiving core and the talent just isn't really there for Jameis. And also you said it, Liam, just like the system, they're not, especially because we know that he's like very susceptible to like making mistakes and throwing picks. I think if he signs there, Belichick would just have him on like a super short leash and just like he wouldn't have to do that much at all. So he wouldn't really even, not only would he not have the talent around him, but he wouldn't even really be getting like the opportunities to put up like fantasy relevant numbers. So.
Yeah, agreed. I also had down for the same exact reasons. I think the Pats really just don't. The culture is not made to handle a quarterback like Jameis, or more so the other way around. Jameis is not meant to handle the Pats culture. But moving on to the final situation for Jameis, going to Washington, I personally had his value going up. Do you guys have any input on that?
Yeah, I had up too, just because, they're a team on the rise. You already have a really talented receiver in Terry McLaurin. And also, we're going to get to it later. They're prime candidates to pick up another solid weapon, another wide receiver 2, or even like a wide receiver 1 with Scary Terry. I think if he goes there, good coaching, they got a good defense that would be able to, kind of limit, like if Winston does still make some mistakes, you have a great defense that's going to be able to pick him back up. And I really actually like the fit because they do have a lot of talent there.
Yeah, just kind of add on to that. I totally love it. I think, especially if they do, the draft happen. The free agency happens before the draft. So I think if they're able to secure that, them going after a quarterback is going to be something that they look at because, they already have Heineke in the building, which people obviously have faith in. But at the same time, Jameis is a, much more talented arm. We saw what he was in college. We saw obviously the flash potential, the over 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in Tampa Bay. But like you said, you guys were mentioning, Terry McLaurin is a huge deep threat. That's where he makes his game. And also Logan Thomas would benefit tremendously off this. I think that even bumps him up higher on our tight ends list. But, then if they do get Jameis in the draft, they can look towards getting a wide receiver. I think someone like Rashard Bateman would be perfect for this team. Another big body guy, because I really don't think outside of Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, they don't really have too many other receiving weapons. They got J.D. McKissick out the backfield, but that's a different type of receiving game. So definitely, though, up on Jameis Winston going to Washington.
Yeah, agreed. Washington, I feel like he's kind of like a more mature version of Haskins in a way.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
And pretty much the value Jameis has right now is, virtually non-existent. So any situation where he can come and become the starter would be beneficial for him. So moving on to our next player, we got Corey Davis of the Titans. And the first scenario is obviously to stay with the Titans. So what do you guys think of that one?
I actually really like this. I thought he had a fantastic year, but I think the benefit of him staying, another year in this offense, alongside AJ Brown, who is clearly the star of this offense, receiving wise, not the star of the offense. Obviously, we know that's Derrick Henry, but the amount of the play action is so valuable for these two guys, Davis and Brown. I think if Davis stays, expect Jonnu to probably leave then. I think, those two guys, like being the front of that receiving core, I think Davis can continue to shine. Obviously, a lot of people have been doubting him ever since he was picked so highly in the draft, being, one of the most talented college receivers we've seen in a long time. I do like this, though, for his value. I think, he was really close to being a 1,000-yard receiver, and I'd love to see what else he can do if he stays.
Yeah, same. I had him as up as well, just because, you said it. He's the clear, second option. And besides him and AJ Brown, they're probably going to lose Jonnu. They don't really have much else in the passing game. It's really those two guys. And I think, it helps. It's kind of like, the situation with Cole Beasley, where it's like, yeah, you have like the star receiver in Diggs, but you kind of forget about Beasley because when Diggs gets all that coverage, Beasley's just out there wide open. And I think it's the same with Corey Davis. I think, he's a really, really, really solid, like, flex wide receiver, like 2 option that's going to give you like solid numbers. And I just like the fit. And I think it's really important to the Titans because I think you can't, I think they really should sign him because you can't really just leave AJ Brown out there. You really need someone like a number 2 guy that's able to alleviate that pressure off of him.
Yeah. And then same thing, obviously the opposite of that. I think Corey Davis really needs that number 1 guy to kind of take the pressure off of him.
Yeah.
He's kind of more like a complement receiver. So yeah, to stay with the Titans, I had it as neutral. I think his value will stay around the same. Just kind of like as that flex wide receiver 2 type of guy. Obviously, I don't think he's going to go anywhere and be the number 1. So I think his best option would probably be to stay with the Titans. But we also had in the next scenario him going to the Bengals, which I had as his value going down. You guys have some input on that?
Yeah, same. I had it going down too, just because the Bengals, it's crowded. You have Joe Mixon, you have you already have someone I think is going to be an emerging star, T. Higgins. You have Tyler Boyd. Probably won't re-sign AJ Green. Obviously if they sign him, they won't have to. But I just think it'll be like really, really crowded, and I think it'll be a situation similar to like the Panthers, where it's like, yeah, all 3 guys are really, really good and they have value, but they kind of max out at a certain value. You don't really know what week, which guy's going to have, the off week and which guy's going to have the really good week. You just kind of never know when you have 3 like really solid options. So I just say down just because he wouldn't be getting the same opportunities he would if he stayed with the Titans.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think, yeah, the only one person I'd see this benefiting tremendously would be Burrow. I mean, to have those kind of options out there, he's still you still forgot we got Auden Tate, who isn't a huge name, but he's still a good receiver out there. Then you'd have Corey Davis, Tyler Boyd be playing the slot with T Higgins and Davis outside. I think that'd be nice, but like you said, it's just distribution of wealth. I mean, I think it'd be good for the team, but fantasy wise, it'd make you want to stay away from Higgins, which would be an unfortunate thing because like you were mentioning in your wide receiver rankings, you had him at number 10. I don't think that was, a terrible take because he's had that really good connection with Burrow, and that would really just bury him on the depth chart.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on to the final scenario here, I have going to the Jets. I think his value would just go down because when does anyone's value ever go up when they go to the Jets? But yeah, I mean, for a lot of the same reasons, they just don't have enough talent. We also don't know who will be starting at quarterback for them next year. Does anyone else have anything other than value down?
I actually kind of thought it'd be up a little bit. I mean, or even neutral. But I think, I like the culture change that Robert Saleh is bringing in there to the Jets. It is a concern. We don't know who he's going to be, who's throwing the ball if he does go there. But, you've got a guy like Jamison Crowder already, which, he's not an elite receiver of any sorts. But, he's a solid slot option, to have at least two receivers out there that would be respectable to take make the defense pay attention to more people. And, you still got Denzel Mims, who the Jets still have a lot of interest in. I think he's going to be a good receiver in the future. I think it'd be good, for him to go out there and, with Mims, because I think they're more of a similar receiver, to help them grow as a team. But I think, he wouldn't be someone that'd be going like 1,200 yards or something like that. He'd probably still be in that 900 yards, like 6-7 touchdown range, which I think would be solid. But I think the ultimate situation should be he should go back to the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I feel the same way. I also think like it would be kind of neutral or possibly up just because a lot more opportunity than he would on the Titans. But also it's like, to counteract that, it's like the Jets, they're just like you probably, unless they make a splash for Watson or someone, you'd probably end up having a worse quarter Tannehill on the Jets. And I just had it as up just because of the opportunity, but I think that the Titans is like the perfect situation for him, and that's like kind of where I want to.
Yeah. Moving on to number 3, we got probably the top wide receiver in this free agency class, Mr. Allen Robinson himself. In this first scenario, we got him staying with Chicago, and I have his value staying neutral because I don't think it can really get any worse. But what do you guys have to say about that?
I mean, yeah, we saw Allen Robinson got the franchise tag recently, but I think, the reason to keep him on this list is, I think it's very well that he could be traded, kind of a tag and trade situation out there. But, with Chicago, I'm just not really liking it out there, probably going to put a lot of faith in the David Montgomery for next season, to give him the Brock. And I just really don't trust because, then they got Trubisky's on his way out 100%. And then, Nick Foles is going to be the one there. And, they're talking about Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson does go there, I think we have to have Allen Robinson increase in value. But I think if Russell Wilson doesn't end up there, Allen Robinson's going to want to demand a trade because why is he going to stay for the Bears, for no reason?
Yeah. Carson?
Oh, he got booted. So just you and me right now.
Damn. All right. Well, yeah, I didn't even realize he had got tagged. But yeah, I mean, our other two scenarios here, going to the Colts, I think his value would shoot up tremendously. I think he's like pretty much the perfect type of receiver that Carson Wentz would need if he were to get traded to the Colts.
Yeah, I think he's a better Alshon Jeffrey is what you see, a more
in a way.
version. Yeah, a more athletic version of him, which would be perfect for the Colts, because they don't really have a solidified number one guy. Even if T.Y. Hilton comes back, I think this last year kind of hindered on him. He's getting relatively old, didn't have that good quarterback play to throw, deep balls down the field to him. But I think, he could be perfect to help with Michael Pittman. I think, someone that has a lot of promise at wide receiver, but I think he could be, strong leading this receiving core because outside of I mean, their tight end group, their receiving core isn't that nice. They still have that threat of Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. I'd love to see it happen, and that's probably my ideal destination for him.
Yeah, same. Carson, thoughts on Allen Robinson to the Colts?
Yeah, dude, same. I'm like, this is like the ideal situation for him. It would be like perfect because obviously you just got Wentz there, and I'm actually really excited to see that because I think Wentz, like obviously we saw his ceiling is like MVP form, and then like the bottom is just like the terrible quarterback he was last season with the with a beat up O-line and a bad Eagles team. And I think if he just like finds like that middle ground, he's still going to be a really, really solid quarterback just because he has such high upside. And getting him a number one guy like Allen Robinson is that much more. And like you said, I mean, they already have a really nice, solid young receiving core with Pittman and Campbell, but I don't really trust either of those guys as like a number one option yet. So having Robinson, that just helps them develop even more. And I love that because I think that would, if they got him, that would really round out their team, and they'd be one of the most, well-balanced, overall teams in the NFL. Like if they got him, like that would be sick.
Yeah, just adding on to what you're saying, I think they'd fail Carson Wentz if they don't go out there and get a receiver. Any of these guys that are out there, it's going to be super disappointing if they can't get someone. And I think Allen Robinson fits the bill. They don't need a deep threat technically. I think, Allen Robinson's that step above someone like Juju Smith-Schuster. Like they need a big physical guy with some great hands. And I think Allen Robinson has the keys to unlock
He's reliable.
Carson Wentz.
That's key. He's super reliable.
Yeah, he was working with Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles last year, and he was a top 10 wide receiver. What's he going to be with a guy that has, people say a top 5 arm talent in the league? So,
Yep, that would be sick. I hope it gets done. Like, that'd be dope, man.
We can just move on to Kenny Galladay here.
Yeah.
His first scenario is staying with the Lions. I think his value is either going to stay the same or go down. But because we have seen, Jared Goff kind of like force target his star receiver at times, and Kenny Galladay clearly being the number one option there, I feel like, Jared Goff could really find a connection with him if, he was to find something there. But what do you guys think of that?
I'll go first. I just have it as down just because you're getting a worse and also safer option in Jared Goff. I mean, someone that Stafford was like very willing to just like throw it up to him even in like tight coverage. I think Goff is someone that plays it safe. He's gonna try and minimize his risk. And I just think it's a downgrade at quarterback, and I think that just like downgrades his value overall. I mean, you did make a good point that Goff might try and force it to him just to make a connection with one of his receivers. But I think the real guy that would be getting his value going up in that offense would be Hawkinson, just because I think that would be a much safer and like a safety blanket for Goff instead of Galladay, who's just, out there just, running options, just going deep every time. I think Hawkinson's the real guy that would benefit from Goff and not Galladay.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, I think it's going to be a shithole in the Lions, Detroit. I just really don't like what's going on there. I mean, I was listening to someone talk about it the other day. I mean, as much as like, DeAndre Swift's probably going to be a back that goes in the later second round or even, I mean, like top of the third, something like that, which, I mean, I don't think it's a bad value, but at the same time, he's in such a bad situation for himself. They got a new coaching staff. Obviously, I think Anthony Lynn is good for someone like Swift, but at the same time, I don't think he's good for someone like Galladay. They might treat Galladay because Galladay I'd say he's more of a, if relating to what Anthony Lynn had back when he was on the Chargers, he's more of a Mike Williams because he's a bigger receiver that can go up and stuff. And we didn't really see him tap into a receiver like that. So, I mean, Marvin Jones is definitely on his way out. So Kenny Galladay and Hawkinson would be the only targets. But, you're losing a quarterback who, people see as a generational arm talent for Jared Goff, who, if he's going to be what he was when he didn't have McVay, you're looking at a guy who's a bottom, like he's at like the 30 to 34 range of quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. So, I mean, I'm really harsh on him, but I just hope Kenny Galladay gets out of there.
Can I just backtrack on what you said about Swift real quick? Because like you made a good point. It's like Swift, he's gonna be like in a weird position in the draft because it's like, are you really gonna go for him as like an RB2 and like risk it because he's in such a bad situation for him? Or it's like the guy, like there's gonna be a ton of really, really like great and solid wide receiver options, or even like a guy like Kittle or Waller are probably gonna go around there. And it's like, would you risk it where it's like, yeah, he does have good potential, but it's like he could have a really like shitty season because of their system, or just get a really solid wide receiver, a really solid tight end that is like gonna produce for sure. So he's going to be an interesting guy to see like where he like goes in drafts and who's like, if he falls maybe like out of like the third round, I'd maybe like definitely go for him. But I just don't know because there's going to be a lot of like really good guys around there like with him. And it's just like he has a
Yeah.
lot of risk.
I mean, you're going to put Swift in that conversation with someone like Dobbins and Gibson. And I think, the situation, I love Ron Rivera has shown he's a good coach. We haven't seen anything from Dan Campbell. And, J.K. Dobbins is arguably, the best run team in the league. He's got that option out there with Lamar Jackson that they can run. And then I just see, out of, if you want to rank those, second year backs going the next
take
year.
Gibson over him. Show.
Yeah, I'm putting Swift at 3. It's just hard for me to want to put faith in a guy when he's in such a bad situation, with a bad offensive line. And, it's been so bad out there in Detroit for the last, it seems like a couple decades, it seems. So,
Yeah. Who can save the Lions? Probably not Jared Goff.
Man.
But moving on to the next scenario.
So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Kings.
Sadly.
Yeah, but moving on to the Ravens. Moving on to the next scenario with him going to the Ravens. I think, his value can really only go up from here, especially going to a team like the Ravens where he will be the legit number one guy. So, Liam, what do you have to say about this one?
Yeah, I was really just talking about the Ravens, but I think it's an ideal situation. You're getting them giving Lamar Jackson a receiver that's finally, a big physical guy. You're not giving him a Marquise Brown or a Devin Duvernay who are, basically built for the slot at this point. You're giving him a receiver that's, a certified guy that's shown he's been, one of the top in the league when healthy. And I think, it's going to be, if they land someone like Kenny Golladay, I think you're putting all the pressure next year on someone like Lamar. I think it's the media is going to do that. I don't think he needs to deserve that much pressure, but you'd be delivering him a receiver that, is going to be able to throw a deep ball to, which has been something that, he's been questionable at, but it's not going to be, he's got to throw that perfect pass to someone like Marquise Brown, who's got to get it back shoulder or something like that. I think I'm definitely going up on Kenny Golladay. I think he'd be an excellent fit for the Ravens. I'll just leave it as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The same way. I feel like this is like not as good as like Robinson and the Colts, but I think this is just like right there. It's just like one of those like perfect fits, and that would be awesome to have Lamar like get that number one guy.
Yeah. Moving on to another receiver potentially going to the Ravens, Juju Smith-Schuster. A guy that I think is pretty much out of Pittsburgh for sure, and has kind of got played out at Pittsburgh by his other fellow receivers. So, what do you guys think of him going to the Ravens?
Carson?
I like it. It's just like I just don't really know. I just don't really know if I trust him as the number one guy yet. I think he's someone that's like a Corey Davis, where he's a really, really great, complimentary like number two guy. Like if you have him as your number two guy, you're like feeling really good. But it's like I just don't really know if he is like that number one guy. It would help for sure, just because the receiving talent is so bad in Baltimore. And I like the opportunity there with him and Lamar. But I just don't really know if like overall that's like the best fit for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
But his fantasy value for sure would definitely go up for sure.
I think he's honestly a better fit for the Ravens than he is fantasy wise. I think, something that's underrated about his game that I've seen is he's a really good run blocker. And especially in that scheme, a big body guy that can set the edge for, when Lamar's taking it out on an option or Dobbins or something like that. I think that'd be fantastic for the team. And, I think he's just a worse version of Kenny Golladay that's not as big as a deep threat. He's going to be the guy that, it's like a 3rd and 3 or something like that. and they throw like a quick slant route to him, and he just like gets his way through to get the first down. It's going to be interesting though. I mean, I really do. I've been on the scenario for a while now, but it's going to be hard. I can't imagine he'd go to a division rival, which is unfortunate to see, but I think he'd be a great fit, and he'd be someone that can be kind of like a tight end that's like a safety blanket out there, which would be wonderful. And if you line him up on the same side as Marquise Brown, it's gonna get Marquise Brown opportunities to get open downfield.
Yeah, agreed. Next scenario we had with Juju was to go to the Jaguars. I mean, we still don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for them either. We imagine it's going to be some top quarterback prospect in the draft.
Not Lawrence. Got issues.
Sheesh.
Sheesh.
What do you guys think of Juju on the Jags?
I have this as going up, honestly, just because the thought of obviously they're probably most likely gonna get Trevor Lawrence. I have this up just because I think with him, you have Chark, Chanel. I think it's just gonna be a high volume, like high opportunity offense where it's like they're probably they're not looking to really be that good their first year. So it's just like I think Urban Meyer's just gonna let Trevor just do his thing and just go out and like make mistakes, which it's gonna suck, but also it's like there's gonna be just a lot of volume and opportunity, I think, and he's gonna be the number one guy if he goes there. So I really like him for that. He's one of those guys that might not be on the best team and might not actually be good in real life, but fantasy wise, like should be getting a lot of points in that offense.
Yeah, I think you're throwing him to a better receiving core than the Ravens in this situation. I think he's the veteran guy out there. You got obviously a young guy like Chark, who I think it was 2 years ago, showed a lot of potential, was one of the better options in fantasy, in the later rounds. And then someone like Chanel, who I think is going to be, like a Robert Woods kind of guy who's, a Swiss Army knife. I know Carson really likes Chanel. We were talking about that on the wide receiver one, but I think it'd be wonderful for him, give Trevor Lawrence a guy, that he can trust throwing it in the middle of the inside. And, just give Trevor Lawrence the ability to succeed because this guy's going to be a generational talent. So.
Yeah. Moving on to our next thumbnail guy right here. We got Aaron Jones. I mean, I think we can agree he's pretty much out of Green Bay unless, he goes back on some small contract. But first scenario we got here is going to Miami, which I think would be pretty decent for him. What do you guys think of that one?
I'd love for that to happen so I can go watch him play. But I think it's, a wonderful situation. Someone like Myles Gaskin, who showed a lot of fantasy value last year, but I don't think, he's as good as a runner. He was, he got a lot of good, like, dink and dunk passes that are able to take a lot of yardage in. But I think Aaron Jones would, you give Tua Tagovailoa someone that he can hand the ball off with, to get in those short yard situations. Because, it was only a couple years ago that Aaron Jones had 16 rushing touchdowns and led the league. I think, if you aren't going to, I think you still got to go after a weapon. Hopefully in the draft, you can go your second first-round pick, go after a weapon, a wide receiver. But I think Aaron Jones would get perfect in Miami. They also went after tackle Isaiah Wilson. He's more than likely a bust at this point. But I think, if Brian Flores can coach that guy, get the potential out of him, I'd love to see the Aaron Jones, running for Miami.
Carson?
I think he might have got booted. Yep. What do you guys say? What do you guys say about this, though?
Yeah, on Miami, I think he would obviously be the lead back, and we've seen, the lead back in Miami have, relative fantasy value. So I think it would be good for Miami and good for Aaron Jones. But I don't know if his value would really be much more than it is right now, especially in that division. Because right now he's probably arguably a top 7, 8-ish running back around there.
Definitely.
With potential to crack into that elite territory, but definitely I think Miami would be a solid fit for him. Carson, thoughts on Aaron Jones to Miami?
We back in this in this boy. I really like it, yeah, just because I think Miami's like really starting to figure it out on offense. And I think they're going to have a really big year next year. I think even with Tua, like if they don't land Watson, even with Tua, I think this is really great because you give him a solidified option at running back, a guy that he can just some games if he's not on throwing wise, you can just feed him the ball. He's also great in passing situations. And I think that'd make them like really, really explosive. And I think that would be a great fit for him.
And to give him the best back by far in the division, in a division who probably has the worst running backs of all in football. Damian Harris, Devin Singletary, and like Frank Gore are the top running backs in that division outside of Miami.
Yeah, by far.
Yeah. Next situation is Aaron Jones to the Niners. I know y'all gonna have a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I think we should be taking our directions in another way, but I've seen a lot of people talking about, in the media, Aaron Jones going to the Niners. He fits perfect in the scheme, in the zone offense. But, I just want to see Mostert succeed. Honestly, saw him tear up Green Bay, in the NFC Championships for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, which, gives me the faith. And when he was out there, he was playing well. So, wouldn't want them to crowd the backfield, but I think Aaron Jones would be a phenomenal back in this offense. Definitely over 1,200 yards, probably 10 touchdowns. He'd be good for fantasy, but I think for the Niners, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I feel the same exact way because, we've seen that, you can really plug in anyone into the system and they're going to succeed just because, the O-line and the system is so great. And I just wouldn't really want to spend money on him just because I don't really think it would upgrade that much. But, fantasy-wise, like if he is in this great system and he is like the guy, man, I would pencil him in for, a top 5, probably even maybe a top 3 season or something. Like if, that was the case. But yeah, I just don't really like his fit. We don't really need him, honestly.
It would make sense though, only because
Yeah.
there's been a lot of injury concerns on the team in terms of the running back position. Obviously, Mostert was out a majority of this year. Then it really comes down to, is Telvin Coleman going to get off the team? Obviously, Jarrett McKinnon's voiced his way out at this point, and then Jeff Wilson Jr. is the backup running back. But we saw what he could do. He was putting up 100-yard games towards the end of the year. So I think Aaron Jones would be more of a luxury for the 49ers. And, when it comes down to it, when we're able to probably give Fred Warner an extension, bring Trent Williams back, I think it'd be a phenomenal decision if we could find a way, to get him on a deal that, just throw him out there and we'd probably have easily the best rushing attack in the league.
Yeah. I think you guys already have a pretty good rushing attack, especially depth-wise. You're just missing really that guy that you can count on, especially in late situations. And really ride for the whole season. But the final situation with Aaron Jones here is him going to the Falcons, which we've seen, their running back room change up a lot in the past few years. I think he would provide a lot of stability and someone really that could hold it down for them. So I think his value would only go up with the Falcons. What do you guys think?
Yeah, same. Just because he could just get a ton of opportunity. That's a high flying offense. We saw Gurley who was, we saw obviously that he was really washed. But even the first half of the season, he was putting up decent fantasy numbers. And I think you get a guy like Aaron Jones, it's a way massive upgrade from Gurley. That's crazy to say. Damn, RIP Gurley, but just putting him in that offense with that amount of opportunity, that'd be crazy. It would just be kind of an empty stats because I don't know how good the team would be, but fantasy wise, yeah, he'd get a ton of opportunity and a ton of points.
Yeah, and you're giving him a head coach who was the OC for Derrick Henry, who just rushed for 2,000 yards and has voiced to the media talking about how he wants a workhorse back, and there's no better one in the free agency class than Aaron Jones.
Yep. Moving on to Hunter Henry. Staying with the Chargers, I think his value would pretty much either, stay around the same or go up a little bit. We still don't know if they're going to, go after another receiver or what, but what do you guys think of Henry with the Chargers?
I think it's a safe bet, fantasy-wise. We know what we're getting out of him when he plays on the Chargers. But at the same time, like you said, there could be some really good surprise in his success increase, with a new coaching staff coming in there. I think they might be able to tap into Henry, who's I think has been really underutilized in his career to this point. But no, you got Justin Herbert with another year under his belt. I think, just continue to succeed out there. I think, I think he might have had some injury concerns this year, if I'm right. Was he out in and out of the lineups?
He always has injury concerns.
Yeah, he's always been an injury concern guy. But, you give him a full year out there, I'd love to see what he could do.
Yeah, same. I just kind of had it at like neutral. I think, if they don't end up getting another wide receiver, I'd say like maybe just up slightly just because, hopefully he'd play more games. But if they don't get a wide receiver too, I think it'd just be, about the same because same situation.
Yeah. Next situation would be him going to the Bengals. I mean, I think that I don't know how I feel about that one. I feel like the Bengals don't have that much, history of good tight ends recently.
Eifert.
I mean, for like 2 seasons, and then he just forgot how to play football.
You could say they're similar though. People have
that is
concerns, true. And he could have a season like that. You give Burrow a position where it's not really strong at all. Like CJ Humazaga, I don't know what his name is.
Uzama.
And Drew Sample are the top guys who far from Hunter Henry's value. I think it'd be good to give, Joe Burrow a safety blanket at wide receiver. I mean, not wide receiver, tight end. But I wouldn't really see it being an upgrade in terms of offensive wise from the Chargers.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree. Yeah. Carson.
Same. Yeah, same. I had this down too, just because I think they'd really need him for blocking more than anything. I mean, they already have the receiving talent. It's just like the O-line is really like the major concern with them. And yeah, I just don't really think it would. I think it'd probably get like less opportunities, honestly.
Yeah. And then final scenario with him going to the Jaguars. I think also down. I mean, they have Eifert now, but I just feel like Henry already has a solid connection with Herbert. Going to a new situation with probably a rookie quarterback, I don't think would help him in really any way.
I think you nailed it on the spot. I think it'd just only be beneficial to give, giving a good tight end to a rookie quarterback's always been the thing that's, shown to be a positive.
Yeah. Moving on to Mr. Thumbnail himself, Deshaun Watson. I feel like we've talked about him a lot on this podcast, but we can dedicate a little segment to him. So, I mean, can we all agree that? Oh, did I just get booted? No. Okay.
No, you're good.
We're good. I don't know. I just got to pop. Okay. Can we all agree that his value goes down if he stays with the Texans?
Yes, 100%.
100%. Yep.
They lost JJ Watt, so they have a terrible defense now, and they'll just be bummed out. Yeah, terrible out there.
Probably won't have Fuller either. You're stuck with Cooks and who else? Kiki.
Cobb.
Yeah. Cobb
and Kiki.
Yeah. Okay. This is my 3 in order. I think number 1 best option is Miami, 2 is Jets, and 3 is 49ers. Let's hear your thoughts.
I got the Niners at 1.
Yeah.
Niners at 1. Just because fan bias aside, I just think you put him with Shanahan in that system, that is like the perfect fit. I mean, Shanahan's been looking for someone that mobile. I mean, this is it's like a match made in heaven, honestly. I mean, you have the receiving talent there with Ayuk, Debo. I mean, Watson and Kittle, bro. Come on, You have the run game. But I do agree that also Miami is slightly under, just because they do have some solid weapons and a good coach and a really good defense as well. I mean, obviously the Niners do too. But yeah, I just like the Niners. That'd just be so perfect, bro. It would. Oh my gosh, I would pencil.
I don't know. They just run the ball too
a
much.
Super Bowl run.
I know,
but I think with him, that would just open it up. They would, utilize him so much. They would still keep that run game, but I think they would just be using him to. Exactly.
Run the option.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like Ravens 2.0.
He could put up the points early and get his numbers. I think it'd be like Curry with the Warriors, where he just gets his 30 in the first half or something, and then he doesn't really have to do anything the rest of the game. I think, oh my gosh, Dude.
Yeah,
would
I mean,
what we have to give up. Like,
Yeah,
John
agreed.
Lynch, get us Watson, bro. He
Well,
is
it's
our
like
savior.
you got to look at it from like the standpoint. Like, let's look at Mike McCarthy when he got hired to the Cowboys. A big concern was like, oh, is he even going to utilize the run game? Because that's not something that he's been used to. He's always been doing like a pass heavy offense. And I mean, you got to look at the amount of carries that Pollard and Zeke had. I think their combined carries, they must have been one of the top 5 teams in the NFL in terms of running back carries, which, you can't ignore talent like that. You got Deshaun Watson, who, is a top 5 quarterback talent easily in the league. And I think, you throw him alongside Kittle, who, second best tight end, as much as I want to say first best, is Kelsey has that role right now. But, you give him Ayuk, who's showed a lot, Debo, a strong run game to support him. It's a miracle. But I think, Miami, though, a still really good option. I think they got to get another wide receiver, though. Devontae Parker, I don't think is good enough. So definitely liking it, though, for him to leave.
And I'm down on the Jets, too, just because I think low-key, like, they're probably, maybe a tiny upgrade from the Texans, but I just think they don't really have the weapons either. So I would just say, just based on his talent alone, I just say up slightly, but I wouldn't be that excited really if he went to the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'll move up the 49ers.
We sold you. Our pitch, we sold you.
I mean, now that I really think about it, yeah, that's kind of facts.
Oh my gosh, dude! I would cop a
it
jersey
would be
like
so
day one.
Yeah, I just want to see him leave. Like at this point, anywhere he goes, his value is going up.
Yeah, he's not playing with the Texans. Like I think worst case scenario, he would just
So
hold out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had to trade him though, because like what happens if you hold a player out like that, they lose value because they're not in the field, they're not producing, and they just go get a haul for him, get 3 first-round picks, and it's a good player.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hate to see Nick Bosa thrown in a deal because that's been what they've thrown around. Like literally there's like 3 players that I just want the Niners to keep. It'd be Warner, Kittle, and Nick Bosa. Everyone else is up for grabs.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I'll lose Brandon Ayuk. I'll lose, Trent Williams.
Kinlaw, maybe.
I'll lose Arik Armstead. I don't care.
Anyone.
McGlinchey?
Yeah. I take they can have McGlinchey. Go ahead.
They can have whatever they want as long as dude. Oh my gosh.
Do you have enough time so we can talk about Wilson?
Yes, that's who I was going to go to next.
All
right. We can finish off with him. Pause.
Nice.
Russell Wilson. First scenario is obviously staying with Seattle. I mean, I think his value is pretty much set in Seattle. We know what he is. We know what he's going to give us. Every season, pretty much. At this point, I really don't know what he wants. Does he want to get paid? Does he want to win? Does he want to, what? You've already won. You've already gotten paid. I feel like he's still being a diva, even though he's already gotten pretty much everything from this organization.
Yeah.
But I think, his value is pretty much set with Seattle.
I'd say his value goes down from last year. He had a phenomenal season last year. Was a head runner for the MVP at the midseason mark, and then they just fell off as an offense. And then they fired their offensive coordinator, who was a big proponent of this Russell Wilson having a breakout season. I think Pete Carroll might resort to the run game because this window is closing for the Seattle team. There's 2 star players who have been there for a while with Wagner and Wilson, getting up there in age. And, they haven't won a playoff game, and it feels like, they've won 1 playoff game since 2018 or something like that. It's just super sad to see.
They lost to the Cowboys.
I was going to say it was the Cowboys. But I like the other options on this list instead of Seattle, even though Seattle has 2 receivers that are in the top, 20 of the league.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys think his value goes up if he goes to the Bears?
Raiders. I think it would go up with the Raiders because I think Gruden would just Gruden's the type of coach that I think would just let him loose. Gruden, he's very QB savvy. He's very you see him on the QB camps. He shows a lot of love for these guys. And I think that's someone that he would just Russ, I love you. Go do your thing. We're just gonna let you do whatever. They have, I mean, obviously not the same receiving talent as the Seahawks, but I mean, you have Waller, Ruggs could be a nice piece for them. They'd probably end up going out and getting another guy if they had cap space or whatnot. And I just think, it's just the fact that Gruden would just let him loose. Like,
They
that's
have
why I
cap
think it'd
space.
go up.
They traded their
Yeah,
right
so-
tackle, which is a concern, though. I do have, but I still think
True.
that they can make
Wait.
it up for it. They lost the right side of the offensive line. They lost.
Was it Cold Miller?
No, they traded Trent Brown back to the Patriots, and Richie Incognito retired.
They traded
Yeah.
Trent Brown.
Oh, and they cut Gabe Jackson, so they only have 2 returning starters on the offensive line: Rodney Hudson and Colton Miller.
Yeah.
But I still
So that
think
is concerning.
they still had a good offensive line the last couple of years. I think Gruden, Mayock can go out there, draft some guys that are going to be able to produce. There's a lot of tackles in this draft that have a lot of high potential that might be going in the later rounds. Go out there, get a Mauler, get that boy Deontay Brown from Alabama, the ideal human body. I think, Russell Wilson, he's going to be able to, make Henry Ruggs a good receiver. I think he can, give him on those deep balls. We know how phenomenal of a deep ball thrower Russell Wilson is. And, make Aguilar keep getting good again. It'd be sad to see the Derek Carr era end, though, for Las Vegas. But I think, you can't
It's been
complain when
long
you got
enough.
someone. You can't complain when, you're getting someone like Russell Wilson who, is just a proven winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's no way his value goes up with the Bears, though.
Yeah, same. Just because I think like they just don't really have the talent, and also I don't really know. I mean, obviously you have Russell Wilson. I don't think they'd revert to, especially that like why he wanted to leave is because they were like a run heavy offense. But I don't know, just because the coaching. I think I feel the same way. Just be like I wouldn't really be that excited as a team though. Like I'd be excited because their defense is really good, but like fantasy wise, I don't really know.
I think it would improve the receivers drastically. I think I saw a lot of things about how Darnell Mooney would have been a way better receiver this year if he had a better quarterback, how he's always getting crazy amounts of separation. And I think Allen Robinson would go nuclear.
Robinson. Yeah.
Robinson's already there. So if they can, bring in Russell Wilson and convince him to stay, that'd be a fantastic pairing.
Yeah.
Hopefully Javon Wims isn't trying to snatch some chains out there still. So
Yeah.
Can we mention Will Fuller real quick, or did we go over him?
Nah, we skipped over him.
No, but you can go over him real quick if you want.
I just I was reading this ESPN article and I just love the idea of him going to Green Bay. He would be like the perfect wide receiver 2 option next to Adams. You'd get him on a discount.
Oh.
This guy, my fucking roommate. He'd be the perfect number 2 option. You get him on a discount just because you normally when you get suspended for PEDs, you're not going to go at the same price. You're going to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think we saw it last year. Finally had his first full healthy season for the most part, and it would just be perfect. And that's really like the guy that they've been needing all along. Someone that's been proven and is an upgrade from their other wide receiver 2 options, and him and Adams together would both be just incredible options in fantasy.
Insane. Yeah.
Hey, but also look at not from a fantasy aspect, but there's a lot of good other players that don't really count in fantasy that are still out there in free agency. We got Joe Thuney, he's a Pro Bowl guard, Yannick Ngakoue, Shaquille Barrett, Anthony Harris, John Johnson. I think a lot of guys that could improve some teams' defenses out there, which from a defensive aspect would be awesome because Shaq Barrett was just a couple of seasons removed from leading the league in sacks. So just wanted to point that out there from fantasy defensive aspect, some guys that could be some big game changers.
Yes.
Yeah,
Agreed.
definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Coast2Coast podcast. We will see you guys next week back with another episode. This is Jose signing out.